Welcome to the Green Tea Bakery. I'm your host, Christine, and in this Greenlight Path series, I interview entrepreneurs, creatives, and overall ambitious people about their dreams and goals, to then interview them again in 3 years and see the progress. Stay tuned to see the journey unfold. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Green Tea Bakery. Today, I'm joined by my very dear friend, art and real estate icon, Tamara Nikotina out here. Right now, you're at a very pivotal point in your life, and I'm very excited to see where you go and all the things you do. So I'm very, very excited to do this interview with you and just recap on the life you had so far and get an insight a little bit into your head, the way you think, the way you feel, and all that. So welcome to the episode. Is there anything else you want to say before we start away? Anything to add?
Yeah, beware. Too much honesty and too honest thinking.
Okay, amazing. We love that. Let's go. So, first of all, I wanted to ask you as like a little warm up, what is something that brought you joy today, particularly?
Today in particular, it snowed in Boston, and I feel like it's either me or every artist out there, but like connecting with nature is really big. So whenever something like that happens, either like rain, snow, just some kind of weather events that are natural and beautiful, I feel the energy, I'll feel inspired. And just seeing the snow, also for the first time in Boston after like 4 years, probably.
Really? It hasn't snowed in 4 years?
It has, but I think this is a more snowy year than typical because of the El Nino weather circulation.
Damn. Could you send me pictures after, please? I want to see how it snowed. Because I think the last time I saw like a snow in Boston, that was 2 years ago. Well, it makes sense. That was the last winter I was there.
That was 2 years ago.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Time flies. Crazy. Okay, so moving on to next. In general, if you think at your life, what context from your earliest life defines you the most today? So if you want to give us any insights about little Toma.
It's crazy, but I have this anniversary coming up in my life that only I'm keeping track of, which is next September. I would be in America for 10 years of my life out of the 24 years. And then seems like a really scary number. And I never intended in my life to stay here for that long. But here we are. And I'm honestly kind of excited to keep it at 10 years exactly. So we can probably get into that later. But so like the first 15 years of my life were in Russia, and then the next 10 were in America. And like I'm starting to accept that American side of me, and I'm starting to get excited about taking it to other parts of the world because there are also good sides of it to it that I never thought I would see before. So you're at a very pivotal point in your life.
Okay, so yes, I think, 10 years, you're going to be 25 at that point. It's going to be literally not 10 years out of 25 you spent in the US.
Just keeping it exact numbers.
You like it. You like big anniversaries, keeping it at very, very precise.
Respect the Roman decimal system.
Exactly. Before moving to the US, tell us a little bit about, I know, but tell everyone out there listening a little bit. How was your life in Russia? How was growing up for you? How was all that?
I think, so I grew up in a small city, and I'm honestly really grateful for that experience because I think that's something like kids in the cities don't get. And that is just the connection to yourself. Because a lot of the time, you live like we live like right outside the forest, and I saw that every day, and I had time to have my mind at peace and have my mind. I had time and opportunity to take a walk from home or walk from school, and just be on my own with my thoughts, and that was like very nurturing. And I had a lot of time to spend by myself as well, and just be creative, do all the crafts, learn about weird stuff, like just because there's just not much to do. Like, you either go hang out with your friends outside on the bench, most likely, because there's no places to go. Sit on the bench, talk about the snow. You're so present in the moment. There's like nowhere for you to be, nowhere for you to go, except for like just be here and in the moment and enjoy your life. And I think that was something probably that every kid from a small city has, is just that skill to just be in the moment and not needing much to be entertained. So now that I live in Boston, it's nice, but I think I still miss that connection to nature in a lot of ways. And that's, I think, another reason why like even the rain and snow at this point make me happy. Like, these things are coming from the sky, not man-made. And it kind of drove me, like, just being here drove me to have this obsession with nature, I think, too, which is something I, like, whenever I was living there, I didn't even think about that. I never thought of myself as being, like, this crazy, passionate person about forests and rivers and stuff and dirt. I think when you lose something, you realize what you had.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited to leave Boston, lose it, and then see what I was really should have been appreciative of.
I think that's always like that. You always realize those things. But you were saying how, yeah, you lived in a small town. You had your connection to yourself very, very strongly, your connection to nature. Did you always want to move, or how did it come together that at the age of 15, you ended up moving to the US? Was that always something, you were going to do, like your family knew you're going to do, or how did this move come together?
I was always like learning English. I think a lot of people in Russia are learning English from the start, just for traveling. It's like very popular. You think about like this bigger life you're gonna go to into when you're older and you're gonna speak English in it. So I was like thinking about learning it. That I came to America originally to just learn English, and I lived in a family, and I was placed in um, a suburb of Nashville, Tennessee, which back at the time I like had no idea where that was at all, whether it was even in America at all. And so I still remember like the first day when my family like picked me up and drove me to their house, and we were in this black massive car that had no dirt on it too. Like this car has no dirt on it, no dust. Well, how is it possible? And then we're driving and all the grass on the side of the road is mown. So lawn. There's a beautiful lawn and it's like perfectly green. I'm like just like my first time seeing that, this image is imprinted in my head forever, and it's like it felt so supernatural. It felt like someone like an AI drew a picture. I think that's something also interesting, like that how cities are more taken care of here than they are in Russia, but there's also like a positive and a negative side to it, is where you take control of the nature or nature takes control of the city.
I love that approach. I think it's so different by city, but also I feel like that's a very interesting way of seeing it. But I guess particularly like suburban places in the US are very well taken care of. Like they're very, yeah, like an AI generated image of green lawns and perfectly clean cars and stuff like that. Okay, then was the US kind of always a place you thought like, oh, I'll go there to learn English and so on? Was there a dream location for you always, like growing up, you really wanted to move there, you always wanted to live there, or you didn't think that far back then?
I think I liked staying in America, and I think learning was much more interesting because the school I went to was good. The school in Russia was good, but I was kind of ahead of most of my classmates. So I think that was the biggest probably interest, because I mean, as a kid, you spend so much time in school, like your classes take half of your day. Of course, if you're not having fun, like that's half of your life. So the classes I was taking were a little bit more challenging, maybe in part because they were in English and I didn't speak English that well. And so I continued going to high school and studying, and like the opportunity to take your own curriculum versus, like in Russia, you can't choose the classes you're taking. Everyone is taking the same classes all together. Like all of you are going to be equally educated in chemistry and math and like history and English and Russian literature.
So it was kind of more about the excitement of learning something new versus like, I'm moving to X country. It was more of like, it's kind of boring. I want to learn more. I want to go
I
somewhere
think
else.
I think it was the learning at the beginning, and then when the opportunity to go to college here was presented, it just seemed like a really good option to do it. And with that degree, you can go back, or you can go to any country in the world, or at least that's the idea, the American degree.
For sure. Okay, and how did you discover your interest for art and engineering? Because that's kind of how we met. For context, when both in Northeastern, we did the first semester in London as like a study abroad program where it was more abroad than study in there. It was really fun. And kind of at the end of the program, we connected, and then we really became friends going back to Boston when I was studying business, you were studying engineering, and we realized that we can't really access the art department and there wasn't really an art club. I think we really bonded over the fact that we were both sitting and painting in our dorm rooms. And then we started painting in our dorm rooms together. And then we started creating the art cup, which I think was like our biggest bonding thing back then, and how we really grew together.
Yeah, until we started living together and
Yeah, exactly.
doing more fun things.
But I think I always find it so interesting when there is like an intersection between something very technical and a creative field. So for you personally, now do you have this art side, you painting, exploring this part, but also you being into engineering and now into real estate. So just starting with art and engineering, how did it come together? Like, why did you decide to go to university for engineering? How did you discover your passion for art? How did this even happen?
I don't want to feed more stereotypes, but it might be. But at least my family was really particular about learning math and from the beginning, because we started at such a young age, like I believe that just practicing it more is the way to become good at it. It's not like someone will be born with a talent. Literally, like if you're 2 and you're starting practicing that, it will just continue on and spiral on and build on it. And so like I felt really good and really confident in math and math related subjects at school. And the other part of me, like the arts, was that the nurturing of it through just my time by myself in a calm and peaceful and safe environment. And it was the time that I had to like make art when I was living at home and didn't have a lot of opportunities to entertain myself. I think that those two things came together. And then in high school, I was trying to pursue both at the same time. And architecture originally seemed like a good combination of the two. But I guess I'm pretty grateful that I ended up doing engineering. And that was under the influence of learning more about my family. For some reason, until I was choosing my major, I did not know anything about what my grandparents did for their profession. I just never asked. I don't know if it's everyone. It was just my ignorant self. But all of a sudden, I just learned that like half of my family was structural engineers and worked as superintendents at construction sites. And I was like, I'm going to take this as a sign in this difficult situation where I have to choose a profession, and I'm just going to stick to it. My mom built our house when I was maybe 10, and she would just take us, to the construction site with her, just play around in the sand pit, and the construction workers would be like, oh, what a cute girl, let me show her how to lay the bricks. That's like the flashback to my childhood also came, and I was like, I think all of these experiences were positive. And so since my family has been doing that and I grew up in it, like it has to be it. But I do wish that, like, I think we also talked about it before, that like if your parents actually trained you in something that they were doing, you'd be good at it, because I was just an observant at the time. I can't say that it runs in my family, really. Like, it ran all the way to me. There was a disconnect.
It was more of you learning it versus like them really teaching you. And I think this little girl, let me teach her how to lay bricks, is going to be the intro clip of this episode. I love this. But yeah, I think it's a very interesting phenomenon. Yes, we did talk a lot about this with you, how sometimes when something runs in the family, sometimes it's like people, I don't know, like parents, grandparents really take their kids and like teach them. I don't know, if we're in a family of engineers, I'm going to teach you like, yeah, how to lay bricks and how to plan and how to do all those things early on. Or if it's like a business oriented family, like I'm going to tell you how to earn money, how to like sell any idea early on. And yeah, we said how we didn't really have any professional guidance and everything that we learned, we had to learn ourselves, and like finding resources and stuff like that.
Like, I wonder how some parents come to learn their kids and then others just don't. I guess we won't know until we become parents ourselves.
Exactly. But I think it's also very interesting. Also, I talked with a few people on this topic that sometimes if you do something, you know how hard it is, so you don't want your kid to do it. You know how it's like in my case, how like my dad doesn't want me to be an entrepreneur and build something myself until I work for like 10 years somewhere else, because he knows how hard it is.
That's true. Actually, my grandpa did tell me he was really scared of me going to construction site, because he was saying like, that is not a place for a woman. Maybe if you do drawings, that's fine, but like just don't go to construction sites. And that is very interesting too, because like now I work at a company whose whole purpose is to have women in the real estate industry and change that.
We'll talk about this, like women in a very male dominated field, and we'll talk about your experience in the past year and a half in there in a second. But in general, how do you feel like real estate came into the picture? Because yes, I remember it was engineering for you, like civil engineering. You created your own major by making it like architecture and engineering together. But how did real estate come in to the picture? Was it also always something at the back of your head? I guess it is connected to the field you studied, but also not directly. So how was that something that you realized, oh, this is actually really exciting to me?
I mean, I did study civil engineering and architecture, which are, they're kind of like a petals on the flower, and the center of the flower is your real estate industry in general. And there's just so many things that span off of it. Even if you take a statistics, one of the biggest creators of CO2 in the world, buildings takes like 30% of the whole CO2 emissions. And the construction industry is in everything. And so having studied two petals of this of this flower, I think it was natural to progress into something more overarching, and that is the development side of things. And that's where you overlook basically your consultants, your design team, your engineers, but also the construction team. your financing, your budgeting, things like that. Yeah, I think
it made sense.
It made sense.
And something very interesting, I feel like also a few people reached out to you asking this question, and I think a lot of would be interested to hear your position. It is that you skipped a few steps basically right after graduating. A lot of people go into working as engineers somewhere for a very long time and then maybe getting like another degree and then hoping to one day become a project manager and be able to really work on the development construction side. You were able to get into this position and start working in this field right after graduating. Could you tell more about like what did you do to do that? And you are 100% you're made to be there, and it's just interesting for people who don't know you and don't know your path. Like, what do you think you did in order to be there?
I think the number one step is realizing that that's what you want, is a management position and not like a designer position. Because I think a lot of people think it is a progressive career path where you have to start by doing more design, like for example, design related things, or more like back of the room table office, back of the office things. At the end of my college career, I put on my resume project manager. I was going for that role specifically, and I highlighted all my leadership skills throughout my college career, and I think that was really helpful in getting that job. Another thing is, so first is the intent and your goal was this, and then another thing is, for example, engineering and development are two different fields, and in engineering I don't think you can become a project manager without working in the industry for a long time, because that's just, I think it is underappreciated, but it does take a lot of effort and a lot of time to become a really good engineer. Like at 5 years until you get a certification, a license, probably at least 5 more years until you actually become a manager. And that is because you can learn in school, but you cannot just learn from school. You have to learn from experience. And that is all it takes is time. It's just the time that you spend in that industry. And so also choosing a different path to where you want to get. Like, to become a project manager in engineering or architecture, I wouldn't be able to just skip steps. I don't think I could trick that game unless my parents own a company or something like that. But you can, and I've been meeting a lot of people in my industry who take steps towards being the person, instead of being the designer and engineer, and being the person who organizes things. And that's where you don't need those years of actual design experience, and you just need your charisma, your desire, your will to be there and to organize things and lead people after you.
What do you think, in order, you said, yeah, you already spoke about charisma and, those qualities, and just realizing that I want this position. I want to create this position for myself and be able to do this. And I think it also is really, really aligned with the idea that there's so many ways. We also spoke about this with you recently. Like, there's so many ways of getting to a similar goal, or in general, like creating your own life. And of course, yes, while there are certain fields where there is more of like a rigid system that you have to follow in order to get it, I find it also so beautiful seeing more and more examples of young people creating their own path and following what actually, yes, like even within this industry, I'm more interested in this path. Like, I'm more interested in this or this. And it doesn't mean that everyone wants to be a manager and everyone wants to be, like a project manager straight out of college. I think some people are super happy sitting and doing their design work because this is what they really enjoy. But particularly for your, like for yourself, like what do you think are qualities for people in order to be able to step into a managerial position early on? Like, what qualities do you have to, you already spoke about the charisma part. Like, what else do you think are really important qualities for people?
Well, I think when I started, I was honestly faking it until I'm making it. I didn't have the necessary skills, which was fine because I was surrounded by people who did, and they were giving me lots and lots of feedback on how to be a manager, not just a manager, but also a leader. But I think the number one thing I learned is that you just have to speak. You just have to say things. And it's like that simple. There's 4 people in the room. If you don't say something, that's it. Say something. Just say something. Just have an opinion about everything. That is how you become present. That's how you become visible. That is how you turn people to hear, to listen to you, to look at you, to put you in their attention circle. Like, that is one of our biggest thing of, like, this is what we get paid for. If we don't speak up, we're not there. as consultants, we have to come to the projects and integrate ourselves into it. And you have to take that step. Hello, my name is, this is what I'm doing here for. What are you doing? Tell me about this. Did you think about this? Just number one, be there, say something. Number two, ask questions and make them think about what they're doing. That's when they're gonna be like, actually, I forgot about this. And you're like, well, now that you remember.
Creating your own presence, right? It's like creating that you're there, and like you can't just sit and wait for people to decide that you're relevant and like that your opinion matters. Especially, I feel like if you're young, especially if you're a woman in a very like male dominated field, like if you just sit there and wait for someone to be like, Toma, what's your opinion? Can you tell me? Like I think you have to wait for a while.
Yeah, exactly. No one's gonna, like, you have to also just being thoughtful. One of the biggest thing at like the beginning of my job was you talk to certain people, you read a certain article, you reviewed a certain document. What did you think about it? And just doing that exercise even with yourself, like with your friends. Okay, let's talk about this. What did you find interesting? Why did you find that interesting? What did you notice? What do you think it was missing? Also trying to identify those parts. And you can do that with anything in the world. That is how you become present. That is how you engage with people, and that is how you also make something better, is by talking about it, analyzing it, and bringing that into a conversation.
And I think that's actually, now that you're saying it, I feel like it's something beautiful that is really present in the US education system. Like the fact that, yes, like there's so much material you have to review, but it's not just like a lecture most of the times for, I guess, like the more, I would say more advanced classes, but not necessarily. But I feel like this idea of like critical thinking and like, let's discuss, let's have a conversation is something that was really, really present. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess I don't have the best comparison to other education systems because I was in the US education system. But yeah, I think it's something that we really learned.
Emphasize in every class.
What do you think? Let's have a discussion. Yeah, oftentimes you disagree, but I feel like being able to disagree and have a conversation is really, really important. Yeah. And I agree that it's like such a big skill of creating this for you. So yeah, I was going to ask you the next question. What was your biggest learning? But I guess you already answered it. Or in general, what were your top learnings in this year and a half?
Let me also think about like whether there's anything else about leadership. Yeah, just one is being there, being noticed by the people. And then another thing is making the decision. I think a lot of the times for example, our industry that I can speak to is no one wants to be responsible for making a decision. Because if ever something happens, it's going to come back to that person who made the decision. So taking that risk on yourself is also a really big step on becoming a leader among the people.
So would you say you should be taking this risk on in order to be, or you shouldn't?
Yes. Yeah, you should be taking that risk. And it can be as simple as, should I do, sometimes you think to yourself like, oh, like, should I do this? Should I call this person? Should I ask this person? Like, yes, you should just make the decision. That's in my head.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And I think also something very interesting that I've been learning through you, because you, for context, you're working in a company that is female owned. There are only women right now working there. It's a small company, but it's in real estate development. And I love every time you share something with the two women you work with, like how much you learn from them because they're more senior in their career. So it's really interesting how like one of them would, always schedule to call people once a week, everyone she works with, because to create this presence, as you were saying, to create that like, oh, I didn't think about her, but oh, she called me. Now I think about her. Now I think about the work we're doing with her. And I think this feeling being like, oh, am I too pushy? Like, am I, calling people too much? Like that just doesn't exist. Like this is work.
That is your role. Yeah. Your role is to be the person who is pushing. And I think also an interesting experience because my senior year, I was the manager of our capstone group. And I think I was pushing for like 2 months out of the whole semester. And I was like, wait, no one gives a shit. Like, why am I the only one actually putting effort into this? And then I just was like, okay, if no one cares, like, we're just going to let it go. That's fine. And I think one of the biggest learnings of since that time is that you should be the person who cares the most about that. And that what you care the most is what you should be leading. through for your team and in your team.
And how do you go about, for example, yes, like when you are, I guess like that was a university setting, it's a bit different, but in a professional setting, like how do you go about if you really care about something, but there are people like you're in charge, you're managing this, but you feel like, people are not as passionate or as into this. Maybe they have other projects. Maybe they're just, there's more money somewhere else. So they're not as invested. Like, how do you go about creating this presence and this urgency where people are maybe not that interested as you are?
I've been thinking about that a lot. And I mean, those are just my answers that from my experience, and I'd be interested to know also from other people how they deal with it. But I think it is kind of like a carrot and stick. And if you don't have the charisma in your personality, and you basically can motivate people by like money, time, or scare them, make them fear you. Those will motivate people for sure. It might not be the best way, but I think another way of doing it is building relationships with people, having the passions shine through you, really caring about something. And when you really care about something, you make other people care too. And just speaking up about it, just being always the first person to show up, and people will follow that. People will sense that leadership in you, and they will just follow you automatically, I think.
I think passion is contagious for sure, and like good energy, and just presenting like this is awesome, like this is amazing, let's do it, like okay, you do this, you do that.
I also actually think like you have a lot of that, is you have a lot of that passion and energy, and people are drawn to that.
Yes, that's for sure. I think also something that I feel like I noticed speaking to a lot of, in the last year and a half, speaking to a lot of founders, a lot of investors, a lot of mentors, a lot of people. I feel like that's also something that I hear. They're like, oh, you're so passionate about this. And I'm like, yes, because this is what I do. If I'm not passionate about this, there's a problem. But yeah, but I love that. I guess like you already said about, speaking up and creating your own space. Is there any other advice you have for people, for women, young women starting in a very male dominated field and creating this space for themselves, their authentic, beautiful space that they can work and create? What do you think is something else people should do?
I think also something that I learned, and that I've seen a lot of women turn more harsh and more become harder because they're in this industry and they're like fighting with the men around them. But actually, my coach told me that is like, do you want this world to become as hard and as ruthless as the men make it, or do you want to be a woman and make it a nicer and softer and more comfortable environment to be in? And yes, like that is what I want. I want it to be a place where people are comfortable sharing their thoughts and are comfortable about not just being a competitive, like dominant male thinking way, but just being who they are, looking for building those relationships. And that's what I think women are better at, it is building that relationships between people and making things softer, speaking to people and understanding people more empathetically. But of course, you have to also be strong. Like at first, before you can actually start changing the world like that, you have to gain that respect from the people around you, from the men around you. And I think just it's all it takes is confidence. I think just being confident in yourself and in what you're saying, and that will make people respect you in return.
And I guess, as you said, faking until you make it at the beginning, because of course, it's not like this and you're confident.
Don't let people doubt you, kind of. Yeah.
For sure. And I think if you doubt yourself a lot, that's when you let also other people doubt you more, because you yourself are not sure about it.
You can also say things in a way where you don't necessarily know the answer, but you're not questioning it. Like some people can finish their thoughts with a question, but you can finish it. You can start by saying, that was an example given to me that really helped. You can start by saying like, this is what I think. And then you say it, instead of being like, do you guys think this will be good or bad or right? Like, what do you think about this? You say like, this is what I think we should do. And then you wait for the people to come back at it and say like, no, we shouldn't do this, or yes, we should do this.
I like that. So you establish as like, this is my truth with the knowledge, by my best knowledge that I have, this is my truth. Feel free to, elaborate, give me some examples, prove me wrong, but not presenting your opinion as like, oh, I'm not sure, like, what do you think? But no, this is what I think.
Exactly.
This is my truth. I love that. I love it very much. And I think also the idea of being a woman in any industry, like in business, and being a very strong, powerful woman. I love this idea of balancing like the masculine and feminine energies and being a leader, but being like a strong female leader. I find it so exactly beautiful. Not when people become super tough and super strong and super like, I'm going to fight and destroy you but it's more of, I'm doing it in my own soft but yet very strong way, and that's something also I'm still learning, but I find it very, very beautiful. And exactly, like, I love what your coach said, that this is the type of woman and type of leaders we want to have in the world, and not everyone who becomes very cold,
hard and competitive.
Exactly. I love that. Okay, moving on to the next question. What is your proudest creation that you ever did so far in life?
This is a tough one. Proudest creation, that's such a good question. What would you say?
I feel like one of the proudest that always comes to my mind, I think, is the art club, like our OG art club, just because like I think it's something, because a lot of things I feel like I'm proud of right now, they're in the middle, right? Like I'm in the process of doing it. Like I'm proud, but like I'm in the process. And I feel like our club is like a beginning to the end thing for us. Like we created it out of an idea, out of like a necessity and like a pain point we had. We attracted such amazing people. Like I genuinely, I think like my closest friends from university are from that art club. And then when we left, receiving messages from members who stayed there after we came, who haven't even met us.
Yeah.
And it's just like such a magical feeling being like, wow, like the fact that I think a lot of people will be like, oh yeah, like I changed people's lives. And not in like a cocky way, but just in a way that like it genuinely made people's lives in university better. Like that is just such a powerful thing.
We had a lot of people come and have a good time.
And I think also something really beautiful is that a lot of people, like, we didn't know in the moment how much it impacts them and how important it is to them, and how our karaoke dancing sessions and our exhibitions and our painting and, you know, crazy things that we
Doing
did,
crazy things.
like how it impacted people. And even if maybe they didn't voice it in the moment, but just like hearing it afterwards. So like this brought me so much comfort and joy. Like this created a community for me.
Also, another thing is the amount of people we connected from different majors is because I feel like most of the people stick to their majors.
Because it's difficult. And I think it's because it was such a comfort club. Like it was so good. And I think because, well, we graduated, you know, like we gave away our leadership to other people who other students who are still there.
Like our friend group ended up being like, we got an engineer, an architect, business major, biology, neuroscience, like Farah was doing project management. Rachika was doing marketing. Like we had everyone.
And I think in communication or something. But yes, exactly. And I think it's just so beautiful. So I feel like for me, it's the proudest creation because it's such a big thing, but also because we kind of exited it. You know, like it was a first full circle from beginning, the inception to then our entire college time to then we graduate and pass it on and still receive, you know, tokens of gratitude, which is very, very special. I feel like that was my proudest creation. And I'm sure there'll be more life, you know, I hope there will be more in life to come. But for now, I think that's like where I see the impact the most. But yeah, what about you?
I think the art club is definitely top 3. Another thing that I did this year is I put together an exhibition where I had like 6 friends exhibit their work. I think the moment that I was proud of the most is that it was so well put together. It's like the lighting was good, the music was good, the agenda was really good, the layout was really good. And that was just because that was one of my also biggest learning is like not only you have to be in leadership, you not only you want to be passionate about things, not only you want to be present and visible for people, you also want to be the person who wants it to be 100% right, all the way to that like 99.9999 and all the way to 100%. You want it to be correct, you want it to be really well done, you want it to be really good quality. And I think just developing that in myself, that I'm going to be 100% person, that was really good for me to see like this is what I did and it turned out really well because of my efforts. And I think just taking that feeling and feeding on top of it will probably help me build on other things in the future. But just even maybe it wasn't like that big of a deal organizing it, but just receiving that feedback from myself was just really good. It just felt really good.
I love the expression receiving feedback from myself. I think that's a very, you know, wonderful way to see that like you genuinely put your best. Like you really, really did your best. I remember, you know, talking to you also and being there when you were creating this exhibition and the effort you put in into really details and to, you know, make sure everyone's on board and all those organizational purposes. Yeah, aspects of this. I think it was very, very beautiful. And I love that you yourself are looking at this and just like, wow, I'm really proud of myself. I did really well.
I did really well based on like the one particular scale I was looking at. You know, I think there's other ways of measuring that success and like how well I did, but that specific one that was important to me, I think I did really well.
I think it all matters, you know, like if this is your personal scale where you feel like, yes, this is good, that's amazing. But now you have a new, very exciting chapter of your life coming up soon. So you're embarking on your master's journey. And what are if you want to share more about this first, and then what are your hopes for the next 3 years?
Actually, this is my big reveal. It's not that I have a kid, that I don't have, but still I got a master's degree in Switzerland. I actually haven't told anyone yet except for my parents and you. And yesterday I also told David because I saw him at the grocery store. I don't see him that often. So, but yeah, I interviewed, and last week I just learned that I got into a master's degree in Switzerland, and I've been dreaming of moving there for a long time. And like I mentioned, like I've been here for almost 10 years, and I really feel like it's time to take the next step in my life and move on to a different place. So I think I was really frozen at the beginning in a state like, well, I don't know if I can start thinking about all the exciting things that are going to happen there yet, but I'm slowly allowing it to come onto myself, savor every thought really slowly and peacefully. But I'm really excited. It's going to be in a tiny city in Switzerland, which I'm excited to experience that after living in a big city for a long time. And like I said, I grew up in a small city. I want to find out if I'm truly am that passionate about nature or just saying that. 1, 2 is going to be a really serious program. The classes that are prerequisites that I have to take.
What is the program?
The program is Masters of Science in Real Estate. The prerequisite classes are capital markets, fixed income analysis, statistics. I forget, like investment analysis or something like that.
She's becoming a finance bro.
I'm becoming a finance bro. Yeah, like maybe not super important, but the photo of all the graduate students from that program, every single girl was wearing heels and a blazer. I think I'm about to be the first one who wears sneakers. I'm gonna make the real estate world like the Steve Jobs, like the Apple of technology, like the modern real estate, your modern version of that, not like the old-fashioned people in suits and heels.
Actually, that's a very interesting topic that also I wanted to touch upon. I think we also talked a lot about this in the past year and a half of you working at the place you work right now, that it is very like, yes, women have a space in there, but it's like very, you have to have straight hair. You have to like wear your blazer, your heels, and which is nothing wrong with that. Like if people feel comfortable and good and confident in this way, like that's amazing. Please do. But also I think your fashion approach to the industry, the way that you want to dress, the way you, of course, like still look put together and professional, but still dressing in your own way is something that resonates with me a lot because that's what I was also doing in all the places, like all the serious places that I worked at. I was always like the fun, stylish, colorful person. So how was that for you? Just establishing that, yes, like I am, I like my comfort. Yes, I'm professional, but also this is how I dress. And this is how I visually also, yes, I'm going to look different than everyone else, but that's okay. So also because you're saying now that you want to continue bringing this on to your master's program, how is that kind of fashion statement from you this past year?
I think it all stems from the confidence again, like just be confident about it and then people will be drawn to it. Be confident about your ideas too. Like the idea of making the real estate more user-friendlier space for people and not as exclusive. Just be confident with it. Just go through with it. I think.
And just also showing that, you can be professional and have good ideas. And it's not just like your look. And I think oftentimes a look makes you like in the fact when you make a process, I think it's easier if you look a certain way that you're already like, oh, I look like I'm part of this. Then maybe it's easier for you to go into it. But I think creating your space, not just visually by blending in, but by having this voice and like creating this voice and showing your opinion and showing your presence, I think that is also a much more, I don't know, sophisticated and stronger way of making the statement rather than, again, nothing wrong with people who prefer to dress in this very professional ways. And maybe they just, I don't know, maybe there's a company telling them they can't do otherwise,
I've read somewhere that basically having why it can help to wear a blazer for a woman in a professional setting with a lot of men is something about elevating your shoulders and making them larger. It makes your presence more established and it makes you look more manly and men treat you with more respect. A really weird thing. But I honestly think it does work. Unfortunately, it works.
But I think also, I love blazers. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think also, like choosing one where you feel yourself and you feel really good. Yes, of course, like have a blazer with wide shoulders. And I think it's very interesting looking in the psychological aspect of it. What are the things that can make us appear more confident and more present and more heard and seen, but also making it your own, right? Choosing a blazer, but a blazer that makes you feel comfy and strong and present.
Sexy. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. All of those things. Yes, I love that. But yeah, to get back to the question, like what are your personal hopes for yourself for the next 3 years? So you said about seeing if you're really a nature mountain person, which I think you are, but it would be interesting to see, of course, like while you live there. Also, bringing your own personality to the program and just being authentic yourself while being in a very rigid, very like serious, intense program.
Yeah, I think for the next 3 years, the program is going to be think about a year and a half. And afterwards, I really think I want to work in a like investment analyst position, probably, because a lot of our job right now, a lot of my job right now includes like doing analysis on potential investments, and that's the main reason why I'm going to school is because like that's that's the skill I'm lacking. And just sticking around to real estate, there are so many different ways you can be in the real estate. Like there are projects that are $500,000, but there are also projects that are $500,000,000. You need an entry amount of money, but you can come with like a small amount of money, if that makes sense, into the industry and start developing your own business. And I think that's like a long term for myself is just to run my own real estate company, whether it's going to be renovations or ground up buildings. I'm not sure yet. I think that's something I'm still figuring out through working in different jobs and building different projects. But I think it's another thing that I don't know if everyone knows about, but real estate is a slow process. Like building is a slow process. It's a long-term investment, of course, and it takes effort, but those things you start today and it's gonna only come back to you in like 5 years. So it takes a really long time. And I think in parallel to that, like I want to basically maybe work as an investment analyst first, just to understand how that works, then start my own business. But while that will be running, my plan is to have another one of my own businesses related to art school. And I feel like Switzerland is going to be welcoming to that. I'm really envisioning this like watercolor community in the mountains for all the people to enjoy the nature in an artistic way. I think it will be the right place for it.
I love that. I love that you started to have a clearer path, but also combining still your passion and love for art and really growing it. And yes, I feel like you'll be able to do so many like cool art trips. You know, it's going to be so much easier to take a train to Italy and do like a weekend painting retreat there with your group or something like that. I think that'd be super, super fun. Just like for a weekend because it's close and you don't have to plan that much into it. I'm very, very excited for you. It sounds like an amazing the years to come. And also all the geographical place that you'll be at, not just Switzerland, but being able to go different places with the school and stuff like that. I think it's gonna be really, really fun. I have two last questions for you. One of them being, what is your advice for your younger self? So if you, I don't know, I don't know how young you want to go, but as young as you feel like, just like some version of you that really needs advice. I don't know. Maybe it's like your freshman year you, maybe it's like your 5-year-old you. I don't know. Whoever you feel like needs advice from you right now to hear.
I think the biggest advice that I probably need to hear every day and I should be giving to myself is just dreaming big. And I think I'm already dreaming bigger than a lot of people, but dreaming even bigger is the goal, because I love this one. I think I've heard this analogy somewhere in the podcast, but this lady was saying she was in a managerial position and she was saying that you always have to tell people 150% of an idea because they're going to hear 130%. And what they're going to communicate to the people they are managing is going to be maybe 100% of that idea. And the people are going to only turn about 90% of that idea into life. So you always have to start with a bigger goal, bigger thoughts.
I really love this idea and I actually never heard of this concept because I guess I still think that sometimes, as we talked about before, I share all my ideas and everything. And I feel like sometimes I'm almost ashamed that I share an idea and then I decide to move on to something else, or like I decide to do it in a different way. And oftentimes I'm like, damn it, I shared it with so much passion with the world and now I'm moving on to something else.
You just have to find a common thread. Keep weaving that blanket.
Yeah. But I think it's actually a really cool concept to hear that actually you got advice the opposite of like when you have an idea to really, really share it, because this passion will die down as it passes down the line. So it's better to always be on fire and passionate about things. I love that. I love be more over the top and dream big. Yes, amazing. And last question, what is an advice you want to give yourself in 3 years? And also, as this new podcast concept is structured, I'm going to interview you again in 3 years. So this is going to be a clip that you're going to listen to see what you're going to give yourself an advice for now.
It's like a letter to yourself, but the audio version of it.
Yeah, like a quick statement to yourself, yes.
Advice for myself in 3 years. Dream even bigger. Bigger than the biggest ideas you've ever had.
Nice, yes. I love that.
I think that's the biggest thing, because that's where our energy comes from, is just from being passionate about something, from having an idea. And when you allow your brain, because that's what happens when you wake up at 2 a.m. is you have an idea. and it sounds so cool. And that's when you're like, oh my God, I really want to do this. I have so many other thoughts about it. And it's just from having that crazy big idea. And then for some reason, when you wake up, you were like, wait, it was a little bit too crazy. But no, it was good. It was a good amount of crazy.
Honestly, I started having a notebook by my bedside just because sometimes at night, for me, it's like before I go to sleep, I have those type ideas, or something in my dream, I have an idea. And it's good to write it down right away because otherwise you'll forget it. I feel like also the second you take your phone in the morning, like you forget all your dreams. So it's like better to write it down before you do anything else. But I love that. Dream even bigger. Yes. And I think it's also, important. Thank you for sharing it because it's also important for me to hear right now because I feel like in the past, I don't know, months, I started being like, okay, like I have my big ideas, but let's like make them a bit smaller to start first. But I think it's, yes, break them down step by step for sure. But I think having this big picture and vision and idea inside of you is super, super important. You have to be delusional.
You have to be delusional. Yeah. No, I think that's a good way of putting it. We have to be delusional, not humble.
Exactly. Exactly. That's what we learned from male-dominated industries. You gotta be delusional and not humble, because it doesn't serve you to be humble in those contexts. For sure. But that was everything from me. All the questions I had for you. Is there anything else you want to say before we wrap up? Any thought, idea, or anything?
No, I think this was a podcast is a great idea. Big idea. Make it bigger.
Yeah, the make it bigger is going to be interviewing people and then again and again just to see their growth and my growth as well. I'll do one for myself as well. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for sharing your journey. And I'm very grateful that you're my friend. And I'm very excited to see you grow and shine even more in the future.
Come to Switzerland.
Yes, I'll come. Of course. Don't say it twice. I'll be there. I'll come visit you.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and everyone listening. Please let us know what was your one takeaway from this conversation we had with Toma, something that really stood out to you, and feel free to reach out to me or to Toma. I'll link all her information in the description. And see you in another episode of the Green Tea Bakery. Bye.